Hello everybody, we are back today doing a little movie review. That's right, you guessed it, it's for Elemental. So, in the movie Elemental, a fire chick and a water guy meet up, and I think there's like a dream and George Lopez is in it, and what's that? Oh, never mind. Yeah, we're reviewing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Well, you guys knew it was gonna be me, right? Come on. That's right, everybody. Today, BFD stands for Big Freakin' Destiny. So I'm going to split this video into 3 parts. We're going to go over the good, the bad, and the uncanny. So let's start with the good. The acting in this movie overall is actually pretty good. I didn't much care for the kid actor. I can't remember what his name is, but other than that, like, everybody turned in a pretty good performance. There are 2 scenes in particular in the movie that actually touched me emotionally, as opposed to physically. It's totally fine. But there's one conversation on a boat in which Indy is essentially explaining why he's so depressed. By the way, spoiler alerts. And there's also a scene at the end with his kind of ex-wife. And that's also a pretty heartwarming scene as well. Some of the action was pretty good. I enjoyed the car chase. I thought that was a pretty good bit. Some of the banter between Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character and Indiana Jones was pretty well done. I hate to say it. I really, really hate to say it. There's not too much that's good in this movie. And before you get upset or disagree with me, let me be clear. A lot of what I have to say that is bad about the movie has elements in it that work. It's not a completely flawed film like, say, there are a lot of elements that work well together in this film. It just doesn't come together at the end. And that's a shame, because this could have been the best Indiana Jones movie made yet.
Okay, geez, somebody shut that guy up, am I right? Okay, before Kyle starts going on and on about Indy 5, I'm going to give you a few of my thoughts. And like last time, I'm looking at my phone because I can't speak. Okay, here we go. If you can't tell, Kyle and I are not together currently, which means we weren't able to watch it together, which I'm not too upset about because there wasn't a lot to care about in this film. And that's the biggest problem with Indiana Jones 5 Dial of Destiny. I'm sure Kyle will talk about this as well, but Indy 5 lacks any sort of emotional core. It has less of a cohesive theme, or if any, than a Michael Bay Transformers film, which is saying something. Indy 5 starts with a very long prologue that does nothing more than set up the MacGuffin of the film and establish a somewhat shallow relationship with a character that we don't see for pretty much the entire film. This feeling carries throughout the film, as for at least me, I never really know when the film was going to start. Once we hit the 45-minute mark, I thought to myself, oh, now the film is beginning. The secondary character known as Wombat, the other guy's daughter, shows up and is pretty much completely unlikable, except for a few redeeming moments near the end. And her sidekick, yes, the sidekick, Teddy, is even worse, saying several times that he only cares about money. Now, like I said, at the end, we see these 2 characters have sort of a redemption moment where they go in and they save the person they care about. Sure, but that is not given any evidence throughout the film, so it is a bit of a nice reprieve to see this, but when we get to that point, because we don't see anything in the rest of the film, I don't really care. Besides a few 2 or 3 emotional moments that we see in the film, which are primarily bits of dialogue, there is nothing here. I will give credit to the action sequences. It was very refreshing to see some simple, street-level action with minimal CGI. This, however, does not make up for the fact that, at the end of the day, this film is boring. And I hate to say it, because that's what a lot of these films nowadays are starting to become. Ironically, it's these massive big budget action films that are boring. Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny is nothing more than another failed attempt at reigniting a franchise using nostalgia bait. This film deserves nothing more than a 6 out of 10.
So on with the bad. First things out of that I gotta say, and this is very surface level, the CGI has not improved apparently since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Look, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, Kyle, I watched your video about the retrospective of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which, by the way, you should go ahead and watch that now as well as the rest of the series. And you said, hey, the CGI is going to get better in the future. We're already there. Yeah, well, if you also notice, I mentioned maybe some of the Marvel movies are showing us that CGI is not actually all up to par in terms of output. Well, Marvel and Lucasfilm are owned by the same company, and a lot of the face replacement stuff has not gotten better since Rogue One, and a lot of the just general CGI the animation was very stiff. There are a lot of shots in the movie where it's like, yikes, that made it to the final cut? Good God. And that wouldn't be too distracting if it wasn't just in your face all the time. It's every single thing had CGI in it. I don't know if there was a real shot in the movie. And that's very disheartening. The Indiana Jones series is built on exploration, adventure. This is not that. In fact, I'm willing to say I don't believe this is an Indiana Jones movie. Gone is the camp of the 1930s serial. Gone is the camp of the 1950s serial. Here we're left with a pretty normal 2010, 2020 movie. It doesn't work. Indiana Jones is a series that is built on camp, and this movie doesn't have any camp in it, like, at all. Like, I understand modern audiences are so cynical and postmodern bullshit and everything, but there's not a lot of time to have fun in this movie. Everything is so serious and the stakes are high, I guess. I guess some people would say that, but this isn't an enjoyment-riddled movie. It's just an old guy searching for a thing, and then this girl who's, is also searching for a thing, and then there's another guy who's like, I'm also searching for it. It's like, okay, yeah, I understand you could say all of the Indiana Jones movies are like that. However, at least they were exciting before. And I understand that may seem a bit subjective, but I can genuinely tell you that the enjoyment factor is there. Little bits it comes back, but overall it's directed as if it's not a part of the series. And like I always like to talk about the filmmaking of the movie, everything looks nice. It really does. Like, everything looks nice. They have shadows. Hey, that's a good start. Everything's lit pretty well. Even the nighttime scenes aren't lit terribly, but it's not shot like a Robert Deakins film. Wait, that's not his name. But it's not shot like a Douglas Slocum film. In Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they were meticulous in order to shoot in kind of an old style way, which makes the series again feel a bit more classic, more timeless. And in this movie, again, it's shot like how you would shoot a normal Hollywood action movie. It doesn't feel like an Indiana Jones movie. But maybe you guys didn't come here to hear all that. Maybe what you want to hear is, hey Kyle, how's the story? And I am a very big story guy, and I gotta say, this one has almost the exact opposite problem of a lot of my critiques of movies that we've seen this year and the year before, which is this movie has almost no payoff to incredible setups. Now let me explain what I mean by that. In past movies, I complain a lot about the fact that movies have a lot of just random payoffs that would be emotional, but they don't spend the time to set it up. Well, in this movie, it's, like I said, it's almost the opposite. This movie spends a lot of time setting things up, and then hardly any time making it all come together. And in between the setup and the payoff, there's not much there. There's a lot of plot in this movie. There's a lot of exposition in this movie. There's a little bit of character work, but you get a setup of a character arc and then it just doesn't really come to fruition. It ends at the end, and it's great, but there's nothing there. I'm only emotionally connected because I like the actors, and I happen to really like the characters. Just on a writing scale, this film is just a kind of a mess. So maybe you're asking, how would I fix it? Well, thank you for boosting my ego, because I'm sure everybody wanted to know how I would fix it. Look, the problem goes back to the script, like a lot of projects that we talk about often do. The problem is just simply, you need to dial it back on the exposition, and you need to lean into the character. See, the way that this movie was sort of pitched to me, and I think to everybody else, is that this was essentially Indiana Jones's last swan song. This was the last thing to tie up the character. Maybe he would die in an epic, battle moment, and you're like, yeah, that's my Indiana Jones. Or maybe he continues, that's fine, but he has his nice little ending with his adventures, right? But see, that's not really what happened in this movie. The movie is so hell-bent on explaining this dial and explaining the, I guess, kind of character relation between Indy and Phoebe Waller's character. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. The movie is so hell-bent on explaining this dynamic of somebody we've never met before this movie, and trying to give it a really big, significant arc at the end of Indiana Jones's character exploration, everything, every movie combined, and it falls flat on its face because at the end of the day, it doesn't care about it. There's a scene, which is incredibly acted, by the way, by Harrison Ford, in which he is explaining what he would do if he could go back in time and change things. And he said he would tell his son not to enlist. And Phoebe Waller-Bridges' character says, why? He says, so my son won't die. Up until this point, you had no idea Mutt was dead. And it's kind of funny in hindsight that the writers are like, hey, nobody liked Mutt. But this is a fantastic way to get your character to start to have some internal realization and change in the second and third act, because this happens, probably like around the midpoint-ish. But instead, it doesn't come back up. He says the reason him and Marion are getting a divorce is because he wasn't able to console her. And then she comes in at the end and she asks, are you back? And his only reply is that he's hurting all over. And they have a nice little intimate moment, and that shows that maybe there's some bright point ahead for their twilight years. But do we really have to do this again? This ending is almost exactly what happens in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, only here, that victory at the end is taken away, and we don't get a cathartic moment as the audience for giving him that back. I guess maybe that's the root of my whole issue with the movie, is that at the end of the day, I don't feel like this journey was necessary. And that's not to say that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was necessary, but at least then you put Indy in a different place than where he began. In this movie, yes, he's in a different place from where he began, but he's right back to where he was at the end of the last movie. And we didn't go on this journey with him. That's the part that is so mind-numbingly just, I don't understand. Again, there's a great setup for a beautiful film here, something akin to Logan, where we see a character in his last years and he goes out and with a bang, but he has a realization about what it means to live, to be alive, to be human. And we just missed that here. And I know I might sound a bit melodramatic, but I mean, this is one of my favorite characters of all time. This is the character that, watching the bonus features of Temple of Doom, made me want to get into film in the first place. So I'm incredibly invested in this, and when I watch this, I wonder, other than the obvious cash grab, what's the point? So yeah, that's kind of my spiel about that. I realize that I kind of combined the bad and the uncanny into one category, so I'm sorry that I lied. If we want to talk about uncanny, there's obviously the uncanny valley of digital Harrison Ford, which in the trailer, that first shot where he takes off the little thing, that looked great. And then the rest of it was weird, man. And they didn't alter his voice either. So it's just old man Harrison Ford speaking as though he's like in his 30s or like early 40s or something, and it's really weird. It does like the they didn't sound mix it right either, so his voice is clearly recorded in a studio booth. It's like, who the hell like okayed that? That's weird, man. But listen, all that being said, this movie is a letdown. It really is. This movie had the capacity of being one of the best, if not the best, Indiana Jones movie, because it would explore his character at the end of his life and saying, what does all this mean? Yeah, there's a bunch of other things I could complain about. The whole like time travel thing is whatever. Like, okay, what I mean, we got interdimensional aliens. You know, might as well add time travel into the mix. Yeah, but the whole like he goes and meets Archimedes, and then he's like, well, I'm about to die, so I might as well stay here. And he's like, I have to do this. And then he just gets punched by his goddaughter, and then wakes up and he's totally fine. And it's like, okay, what the hell? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, he makes multiple sacrifices in the movie, and he changes Phoebe Waller-Bridges' character over the course of the film. That works. That's fine. It's not anything amazing, but again, it works. But then he feels like he has to sacrifice himself at the end of the day. Why? I don't know. Maybe if we explored the fact that he couldn't face his regrets, you know, maybe that would have meant something when he said, no, I'll just rather stay 2,000 years in the past. I thought they were going to do something where they were going to make Indiana Jones turn out to be Archimedes, because, like, the kid steals his watch when they're on the little cart thing, and he's like, give me that back, that was my father's watch. And we don't see it, but it was like kind of it was a little moment, I understand, for the character dynamics. But I thought when they went and found Archimedes and Archimedes had a watch on, I thought it was gonna reveal that Indy was gonna stay there because Archimedes died, and he's like, I don't want to fuck up the timeline, and then he would stay and be Archimedes or something. Thank God that didn't happen, but how crazy would that have been? That would have been the weirdest and dumbest way to end this series, but thank God they didn't do that. But yeah, like I said, I have a bunch of things I could add to the complaints or like weird discrepancies in the movie, but again, I wish that there had been a really good character exploration at the focus of this movie. I wish that the characters who have a device that, as far as they know throughout the course of the film, can take them back into their past, and only the bad guys seem to want to take advantage of that. None of them even thought about it, despite having major regrets throughout their life. And that's weird, man. It's just it's a failure of writing. It's a failure of using your concept adequately. So anyways, like I said, if you haven't watched my Indiana Jones retrospective series, all 4 of those parts are up on YouTube, baby. Go click that. Watch those videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you agree with me. Well, I don't hope you agree with me. I hope you enjoyed the movie, but if you disagree with me, let me know. I'd love to argue in the comments. I'm not going to argue, but, you know, I would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm completely turned off by this movie, and it makes me very upset. Anyways, I've been Kyle, and I still am, and this has been the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny movie review. So long!